Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while. Not much has been happening in the photography world, I believe. There has been some new camera releases, I guess, but nothing really significant. What I wanted to talk to you today about is Fujifilm, and there is a lot of hype, I would call it, around the Fujifilm product. There was a lot of excitement when they started producing cameras, probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, I guess. I'm not sure exactly. But yeah, there was a lot of hype then. They came out with these amazing mirrorless little cameras. Actually, they weren't that amazing even at the time, but they were well made. They were made in Japan. They had really good quality lenses, and they were producing really nice JPEGs and images, and people were giving them a lot of rave reviews at the time, and it sort of created this sort of excitement around them that a lot of people got caught up in. And it was sort of like I don't know if it was the retro appeal of them, the old school sort of fashioning, you know, with dials and knobs now, with you know, just old sort of fashion, sort of slow me down sort of fashion, whereas before we had been sort of bombarded with these very ergonomic sort of cameras that were sort of molded around our hands. And perhaps people liked that step back. They felt some sort of nostalgia, sort of 80s style camera. Now, of course, I've lived through the real film cameras with, you know, dials and, you know, that styling. And I've watched the progression through to modern DSLRs and the way they're styled. And I can say that the modern ones today are definitely a hell of a lot better with ergonomically. But anyway, what I wanted to talk today about is, of course, I used to use Fujifilm a lot. I was really caught up in them as a system. Although I'm not exclusive to one brand, I did like Fujifilm a lot, and I really persevered with them. Now, I believe, in my mind, that the XH1, which I believe now is discontinued, but you know, it's still pretty much widely available, that was probably the best camera they did produce, and I was really happy with that. So I've got some points as to why I am leaving the Fujifilm system, and it was sort of under a bit of duress. You know, I really did want the system to work out for me. I really wanted it to be all that the hype had built it up to be, but really, for me, it didn't eventuate. It was always lacking in certain areas, always, and these areas for me were crucial. And it really annoyed me no end that it was never sorted out, that it never resolved, and in the end I couldn't stand it. And about a month ago I sold off just about everything Fujifilm that I own. I did keep one camera body, which is the XE2S, and I kept the 18 to 50 lens, and I kept the 27 and the 64 macro. I kept all those lenses and that body because really they were part of my original system, and there's a bit of nostalgia there for me, and also because I believe that that was like some of the best Fujifilm product ever produced. I really liked that rangefinder style camera. I liked the quality of the results, and as a picture taking camera and lenses, they all worked well. And honestly, to sell it, I would not get much money for it, and it's really for me, the financial reward of selling it is not worth it. I'm better off to keep it and just enjoy the memories that I had with it and maybe use it on occasion. But anyway, I'm going to go through now. First of all, I'll tell you the things that I really liked about the Fuji system and what drawed me in. The things that I liked, number one, was the optics. The optics were always superb. They had beautiful glass, well made, and gave really nice sharp images. Didn't seem to matter which lens you got from Fujifilm. You'd always sort of be guaranteed that you'd be getting some really nice, good quality results from that lens. The other thing that I did like was the Fujifilm colors for people, taking photos of people, which is a big part of what I do. And I did like the colors that were coming out of Fujifilm. And then the other thing that I did like in the end with my X-H1 in particular was the Fujifilm video. The video quality coming out was really good in the end. Of course not with the earlier cameras, which was absolutely dreadful, but with the later cameras like the XD2 onwards, they're higher-end cameras, the video quality was just absolutely gorgeous and outstanding. Okay, so they're the things that really did appeal to me. And obviously these were things that drawed me in, and I really wanted the whole system to really work because it had some really good points to it. But there was some underlying issues with the Fujifilm system that I just couldn't get past, and they never seemed to get resolved, which was just so disappointing for me. And in the end, I could see that perhaps they weren't going to be resolved at all in the near future. So I decided to get rid of them. So what was that? Okay, so first of all, editing was always an issue. I had to go and purchase Capture One to get the results that I wanted photographically, and I didn't like that because ultimately I prefer to use Lightroom. I find it a much more intuitive system. It's a system that I've used for a long time naturally, and for me that makes sense to do all my editing in one place, and I don't like chopping and changing between different sorts of software in order to do my editing. So although Capture One is a great system and it produces phenomenal images, no doubt about it, especially with Fujifilm cameras, I didn't like that. The second thing was the focusing. The focusing was always one step behind. It it was good, very good for still shots, but the video focusing was just crap. Video focusing was not something that I enjoyed at all. It just couldn't do it. Even today I'm watching YouTubers putting up videos with their X-T4s, and I can see the issues just haven't gone away. It's still pulsing in and out, and they just haven't nailed video autofocus. And unfortunately I do a lot of video with autofocus because I'm not the type to pull focus, but some people are. I guess if you're really professional, then you probably would pull focus, and perhaps you can use the Fujifilm cameras in those scenarios where you're pulling focus, etc. But for the average Joe Blow who's not pulling focus, who's using AF, they're going to be really disappointed with Fujifilm. Okay, the next point I'm going to make is about the firmware updates. Now, a lot of people would say the firmware updates, they're coming fast and furiously, and they're updating the cameras and they're turning them into the whole next level thing. And I'd be like, well, yeah, but why didn't they do that in the beginning? Why didn't they put in the development before they release the product and fix up the flaws, fix up whatever issue it is that they're fixing in the firmware? Like, that's not great. For me, that's a real problem. So firmware updates, I don't think is a real solution. I think you should have most of your bugs ironed out before your product comes to market. Also, with the firmware updates, I believe, well, it's my experience, that once they release a new camera, such as I had the XT2, then they released the XT3, the XT2 firmware updates, they're now redundant. There's no more updates for XT1, XT2, only for XT3. So they put all their technology concentration into the latest camera, which I guess is fair enough. But the older cameras, they don't get the updates. They don't become newer and better and fantastic things afterwards. What you've got is what you're going to have forever, basically. The firmware updates that do come later, when there is another camera body above yours, they're just to update lens data, really, and to make the camera operational with the latest lenses that are coming out. They're not to update the actual functionality of the camera. Another thing that I hated about Fujifilm was the ergonomics. The ergonomics were dreadful, particularly on the XT1, XT2, XT3, XT4, etc. They started to go in the right direction with the XH1. Although it was very large, it had the best ergonomics of them all. But definitely the ergonomics, the way you had to hold them, the lack of grip, overall styling. I know they had dials and stuff and it was retro based and all that rubbish, but ultimately it's not a good thing to hold in your hand. It doesn't work well. That's my opinion. I know other people might say, oh no, you're wrong, I love it. Well, good luck to you. For me, they're not good. So with all those things in mind, I decided to drop my system. I sold it all off. I'm now using Canons and Panasonic and a little bit of Sony, and I find all these things meet my needs. I found that the Fujifilm system, with its flaws, just wasn't getting used. I could address certain things much better, much more easily with these cameras than with the Fujifilm system. I'm sorry if I've disappointed you. I wouldn't be surprised if there's others out there who have experienced the same sort of sentiment with Fujifilm. I wanted it to be a really good system. I think I did get caught up in the hype, and basically it's just always been a disappointment for me, and it's never quite been there. There's always been some sort of compromise, and I mean big compromise, not just a little compromise. So yeah, it's gone. That's it for now, and I'll bring you more videos as they eventuate with upgrades in gear, etc. But at the moment, with COVID and pandemic in full flight still, I'm just sort of laying low, and yeah, like most people. And yeah, wish you all the best. Catch you later. Bye.